was that this was truly a blessed weekend. The service began, and Pastor Todd told the congregation that this was going to be an extra special service. Really? How did he know that's what I felt? But then as I listened, he explained that he would be conducting 7 water baptisms. Water baptisms are a beautiful statement of one's commitment to Jesus Christ, and today 7 candidates of different ages and backgrounds would give a brief testimony of their love for Jesus Christ and be immersed and then raised from the water. During worship, the congregation stood as we praised the Lord by lifting our voices in song. While worshiping, I saw a young gentleman walking up the aisle, camera in hand. I did a double take as he stopped. He looked at me. At this point, I realized this was someone else from my past that I not only was not friends with, but it was someone that I had physical altercations with throughout my high school years. As my mind adjusted to this unexpected meeting, I had a moment of immature posturing, first clenching my fists and thoughts of us tumbling down the aisle like a professional wrestling match. With chest out and stomach in, I realized he was extending his hand to me for a handshake. "Hi, Joel," I said. "How you doing?" We chatted only briefly. He told me his daughter was being baptized. I said okay, and we made plans to talk after the service. I could not believe that I would run into an old adversary at this church. Was he following me? Perhaps he has been stalking me for the past 25 years, and today was the pinnacle of his revenge. I looked to the rafters, not in prayer, but rather making sure there was not a bucket of pig's blood and a dangling rope ready to be pulled. All my fears, all my concerns were put to rest as they announced his daughter's name. My former adversary was a father, and a proud one at that. He was scrambling to get the best angle possible as he snapped pictures of his daughter giving her testimony and then being baptized by Pastor Todd. I then released an anger and resentment that I had been carrying in my heart for so many years. I erupted into applause along with the rest of the congregation at the completion of my friend Joel's daughter being baptized. What a blessed experience to release some darkness from my soul and fill it with the joyful light of forgiveness. Oh, what a very blessed weekend. At the conclusion of the service, it was announced that there would be a potluck lunch being served in the gymnasium. My relatives all asked if I could stay and visit. I was so happy as the luncheon would give me the opportunity to chat with my cousins, the pastor, and my new friend, Joel. There was a flurry of activity in the sanctuary and the lobby of the church. The same visions of hugs and smiles that happened before the service was being repeated. Church is a wonderful place to go to experience peace and fellowship in a wholesome social setting, and I recommend it to anyone who feels they may be missing something good and wholesome in their life. Once again I was approached by my former adversary Joel. This time he wasn't holding a camera, he was holding the hand of a beautiful young lady who was wrapped in a towel and was leaving small wet footprints up the aisle. He introduced me to his daughter. I shook her tiny delicate hand, and with her eyes beaming and a big smile on her face, I realized the beauty of a child. So often all we hear are the inappropriate screams or are annoyed at other people's kids as they run around us out of control. I hope that everyone listening to my story will take a moment to really look at a child, whether the child is your own or a loved one's. Look at that bundle of innocence not yet corrupted by the unfairness and injustices of the world, and appreciate the true beauty of a child. Their laughter, the way they look and handle new things, and their never-ending curiosity of how the world works. Take a moment to really look at a child, and you may just realize exactly what I mean when I say blessings and miracles come in all shapes and sizes. I felt a bump on my hip, then another. A friendly arm was reaching around me. I looked to see who was assaulting me. I see yet another member of the Narbe clan, my cousin Debbie, who is married to little Ed. She spoke some kind words to me, and instantly I was reminded, some 30 years after last seeing her, why I was so fond of her. Debbie is the type of person that I would describe by saying she has a contagious smile that lights up a room. I know it sounds quite cliché, but it really does fit the bill. She has a bubbly personality and a very kind heart. Her doing the bump with me was her way of saying hello to someone that she is very fond of. It did not matter that 30 years have passed. It did not matter that we haven't exchanged Christmas gifts, or we did not call each other on holidays or send greeting cards and money for our kids' birthdays or graduations. It was simply an act of recognition and a joy of seeing someone. It was a blessing, a small gesture I won't soon forget. Can you recall the last time someone was overjoyed to see you for no other reason than just to see you? It is a wonderful feeling, especially to someone who is missing this connection of family in my life. I firmly believe that because we are on God's timeline and not our own, that blessings can occur in different forms and at times we least expect them. Such is the case when I discovered in a conversation with my friend Joel outside of the room where they were holding the potluck dinner. We started to discuss mutual people we knew from our past. A name came up of a guy our age that had quite a reputation as being a thief. I knew from many stories I heard growing up that he was always screwing somebody out of something. He was the kind of guy that if I saw him walking up the road I lived on, I would watch him from start to finish, to make sure he didn't backtrack toward my house. I had an odd relationship with him. I could talk to him and party with him, but he was simply someone you could not trust. As our conversation continued, Joel told me that he heard this guy was murdered a few years back by a motorcycle gang due to a bad drug deal. Joel could not confirm it, however, this was not out of the realm of possibility. The thought of this happening brought great sadness to my heart. It wasn't because this guy was particularly a friend. It was because I had wondered about him over the years. I wondered what road would he take, where his journey would take him. Would he straighten up? Would he be a contributor to society? Would he get married and have children? Or would he continue his criminal ways and end up in jail or dead? Unfortunately, it sounded like he wound up dead. In this terrible tragedy of a wasted life, I am sure you are thinking how there could possibly be a blessing in this. Well, after reflecting on this part of the blessed weekend I experienced, I asked myself how far was I from becoming the subject of this terrible story and not the author. I could have gone either way. I struggled with some demons growing up. I had issues that could have easily led me onto a path of self-destruction. I also knew that the person that told me about this also struggled with his own demons in his life. The blessing is the fact I have a relationship with Jesus Christ, and that my journey is not leading down a path of destruction, but one of salvation through my belief in the Lord, knowing that He died on the cross for my sins. Do you have a similar blessing to be thankful for? Was there a pivotal moment or decision that you made that affected the path you would take in life? I hope you will reflect on that question, as that next pivotal moment or decision could be right around the corner. The lines at the buffet were dwindling. The garbage cans began to fill with paper plates and half-eaten corn on the cob, and I knew it was time to wind down my visit at the Westland Church of Orchard Park. I held back some tears as I said my goodbyes to the passel of my kin. With hugs and handshakes we promised to keep in touch, and I'm happy to say these promises have been kept. I said my goodbyes to Joel, and we exchanged phone numbers, and I passed on a very gracious invitation to join him and his family for a post-baptism celebration. I wanted to make sure I could catch Pastor Todd on my way out to say hello and thank him for a wonderful and surprisingly blessed service. I saw him making his way out of the church, and before I could get a word out, he proclaimed, "Well, you sure do keep your promises." "I sure try to," I replied. We shook hands and shared a little of what I had just experienced. He was very happy that I attended the service, and I promised to attend the next time I was in town, and I filled that promise attending his service on Father's Day with my dad right next to me. My weekend was almost over. I indulged in my ritual pleasures like getting the best tacos in the world from Pizza Baron in Boston, New York, and cruising around my old stomping ground at Chestnut Ridge Park, remembering good times and bad. I reflected on the weekend, on what a blessed weekend it was. It started with a beautiful gift from my brother, surprising my father with a visit from his son, fulfilling a spiritual need while rekindling relationships with family members I haven't seen in 30 years. An enemy becoming a friend, and I was reminded how faithful to the Lord my Father is, as we sat in silence at the end of the day and spent time in the Word of God. As I said goodbye to my dad Monday morning, he became very misty-eyed, thanking me for his surprise visit. This was not unusual, however I could tell in his tone and facial expression that he appreciated more than I knew. I realized in his simple thank you he was saying, "I appreciate you taking the time out of your life to drive 3 hours to see your father for no other reason than just a visit." I knew in his thank you he was saying, "I am so glad you have a relationship with Jesus Christ, son. I am proud of you for having what your mother and I hoped you would have." We hugged. He said, "I love you, son." "I love you too," I said, holding back my tears. As I put my truck in reverse, Dad came up to my window, put his hand on my arm, and said, "Very much."
Darryl and I hope you enjoyed The Weekend, a true story of faith, family, and friends. We invite you to visit www.darrylsjourney.com often and share in the love of Jesus Christ. May God bless you.